Today we're making pulled pork, and the macros for today are 754 calories per portion. We end up at 38 grams of proteins, 65 grams of carbs, and 24 grams of fat. And we're gonna start off by putting our oven at 150 degrees. You can also do it at 175, and that will make this much faster. I don't know why I was done just 150 at 4 hours, but you can also do it at 175 and it will go much quicker. And then we're going to trim some fat, and we're also going to remove the membranes. The membranes won't render down during cooking, so if you don't remove them, they will end up in the pulled pork in the end, and they're not that nice to get in your mouth, so be sure to remove them. The meat we're using is pork neck or pork collar. To this we're going to add 5 cloves of garlic. We're also adding 1 tablespoon of cumin, 1 tablespoon of smoked paprika powder, and 1 teaspoon of Chiliflakes. And if you like spicy food, you can also add more chili. I'm doing this so that my kids will eat it, and with 1 teaspoon it's right on the edge, but they like it, so I'm sticking to 1 teaspoon. And this is somewhat time consuming, but it's mostly passive. All you need to do is add these ingredients, put it in the stove for 4 hours, and it's basically done. Just reduce it later on. And to this we're gonna add 10 grams of brown sugar. Then we're adding 1 deciliter or 0.4 cups of BBQ sauce. And we're gonna add 1 deciliter more later on, but I like to add that later on to thicken the sauce a bit at the end. And we're also going to be adding 330 milliliters of beer. That's 3.5% alcohol, and that's roughly 1.4 cups. And as you can see, this is super simple. This is done. All we need to do now is put on the lid, place it in the oven for 4 hours. And I'm doing 1500 grams, meaning that it won't be as done as it could be at 4 hours. It will be manageable, but it will be a bit more tricky to pull everything apart than it could be. So if you're doing a bigger piece, you could do it in the oven for more. But here we are 4 hours later. And all we need to do now is use 2 forks and pull this apart and reduce the liquid. And as you can see, we're roughly 4 hours later. And it's a bit tricky to pull apart. It would have been much easier if it was just a kilogram. Also, if you reduce this to the same amount that I do, I found that if you're using 1000 grams of meat, it usually ends up weighing roughly 1000 grams at the end as well. And that means that every portion will be roughly 200 grams, which makes this quite easy. So we want to reduce this until there's basically no liquid left. And now it's a good time to put on your potatoes. I'm doing roughly 300 grams. Just boil them, and this won't be the best mashed potatoes you've ever had. It's gonna be a low-calorie version. It's gonna be fine. I like it, but it won't be super Michelin style. If that's what you're looking for, you need to add butter and cream, but we're using low-fat milk, so increasing the flavor with salt, pepper and nutmeg instead. And we're almost done reducing this. We're going to remove a little bit more liquid, and then we're going to add our final deciliter of barbecue sauce, and that's going to thicken this up and make this a nice sauce. And all we need to do now is mix this together. One of these days I will remember that I'm filming and not have my hand in front of the camera, I promise. And once we mixed it, we are done with our pulled pork. So for our mashed potatoes, the potatoes are done, meaning that we're just gonna simply mash them. And potatoes require quite a lot of salt, so we're gonna add a big chunk of salt. And 1 deciliter of milk, or 0.4 cups. And that's gonna make this quite wet. So we're gonna place this back on the heat. Everything's turned off, so it's not turned off now, but it will be. We don't want much heat. If you're like me and have an induction stove, all you need to do is just place that back on the stove. Everything can be turned off and the residual heat will remove the remaining liquid until you have the consistency that you want. So, in with pepper, we're gonna grate some nutmeg into this as well, and add a nice chunk of salt. And that's all. Just mix that together and that's all. This is really simple, but it becomes a very nice dish. That's it for this week. I hope you try it. If you do, let me know what you think. And thanks for watching and hope you enjoy.